How y'all doing? TVAR on the road again. This one, well, I've always considered my on the roads to be a little more like fireside chats. And with cold and wet weather, a fireside's looking pretty comfortable right now. But what is this chat about? Well, lately around the rounds, there's been the discussion of the loss of physical media. How stores are no longer going to carry Blu-rays and DVDs. Walmart, Target. Oh, no, I'm not sure about Walmart. Best Buy, Target, and probably others. I'm going to openly say I don't like this decision. And I'm going to give a few examples as to why. Sit back, find a car heater or a warm fire, and I'm going to give you a few examples. Sit tight. Top of the list for me is Doctor Who. We all heard the stories of a lot of the lost episodes, the earlier episodes. The BBC looked at those lost episodes with the classic doctors William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee. This was before PBS came over with Tom Baker. And around the 70s, the BBC decided that these earlier adventures with these classic doctors were no longer worth keeping. The storage space for film was considered more important than the film itself. They weren't thinking of physical media. They weren't even thinking of syndication. And they figured they've distributed these episodes to other sites overseas, and they probably figured they could get it back whenever. Well, that didn't exactly work out that well, did it? Because a lot of those episodes became lost overseas. To this day, 97 episodes still remain missing. Some of them even completed adventures. When syndication and home video became realities, the BBC was scrambling to get whatever they could back. And I would later find out they didn't even have the audio tracks, apparently. I, for the longest time, thought they did. But now I'm hearing stories that it was actually fans that recorded these episodes themselves off the TV. They used audio recorders, recorded video using Super 8 cameras, so they could watch these episodes on their own. They could sit in front of a monitor, Super 8 camera hooked up, play the audio, and they were watching old school Doctor Who. I've seen some clips likely of the Super 8 footage when they tried VHS releases with telesnaps, voiceovers, and one or two clips of the Super 8 footage, I think. It finished out the story, but it was not the same. You really wanted to immerse yourself in the entire story and not just have a bit-by-bit clip show. So when they were doing the animated restorations, most notably with Patrick Troughton, whose doctor I've kind of been rediscovering in recent years, I jumped at it. I was looking forward to a lot of these new adventures, or old adventures brought back. Power of the Daleks, Evil of the Daleks, Fury from the Deep, the Macra Terror, the Faceless Ones. I even wound up looking for some old DVDs that had earlier animated restorations of videos. the Ice Warriors, the Moon Base, and even the Invasion. The Underwater Menace will be coming out soon, and I'm going to be looking forward to getting that. I'd say likely at a Barnes & Noble. So, it's more fun to sit back, pop it in, and watch it. And also, if you have it on your shelf, so you know that adventure will be on hand. But when the BBC made their decision to destroy their master prints or wipe them for new content, a lot of that history became lost. And I'd say with physical media being moved away from in favor of trying to steer people a little more towards streaming, are we going back to square one? Are we going to have to get video recorders again and record it off of our streaming sticks, off of our monitors? Are we going to have to do audio recordings again? Going to make do with cameras on our phone if the memory can take it? I don't like those prospects. I think there's always going to be a need for physical media. And the BBC's actions, while John Pertwee's episodes were recovered, many of William Hartnell's and Patrick Troughton's episodes were not. In terms of full story, Patrick Troughton had the most losses. William Hartnell had quite a few stories found in their entirety, but there's still quite a bit that remained lost. In terms of his restorations, Galaxy 4 has had an animated restoration, and the Celestial Toymaker will be releasing for another one. And I think there was also another earlier restoration that was done, but I have to take a look for it. Another one in this discussion is The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. For those not wondering, Johnny Carson has been considered the undisputed king of late night. He has since passed on, but his legacy endures with a lot of the late night hosts you see on a timely basis, on different networks even. He's been the king of late night all the way from the 60s, 70s, 80s to, well, I'd say probably the 80s, maybe the early 90s. But Carson stepped down and others filled the void. But one of the things that Johnny Carson wanted to do, when home video came around, he wanted to broadcast his old Tonight Show episodes on home video. Have it available for future generations. When he went to the network to ask for these old shows, he was told the tapes had been wiped. They'd been destroyed. They weren't considered of any use anymore. Now, granted, a few clips do survive, including one that makes use of a tomahawk hitting a certain region. So some memories still endure, but the entire shows, a lot of those old broadcasts were lost. Maybe the first episode, but none others after that. Originally, The Tonight Show aired in New York, but then it got moved to L.A. And Carson then decided he was going to have a little more control over The Tonight Show so he could have control over his later content. So he could release it for future generations. You could have it on a disc set, or actually some of Carson's episodes are on satellite and cable right now. You can review a lot of those old memories. But some, I will admit, still remain lost. Unlike Doctor Who, there was no one, to my knowledge, that had audio recordings set up, and no one with Super 8 cameras so they could watch them at a later time. If there is, I've not seen anyone doing so. So yeah, unlike with Doctor Who, a lot of Carson's old materials are lost to this day, which I think deprives a lot of people from learning from the feet of a master, at least from his earlier material. Tragic and sad, because Carson was considered a comedic genius, and he brought laughter and love to so many people. His legacy still endures, but there's still gaps in the history, and that's tragic and sad. In retrospect, I don't like being steered more towards the streaming side of things and physical media becoming a casualty for that. We're always going to need physical media. We're going to want to have something on our shelves, take it off, and put it on our players, Blu-ray, DVD, or even CD or audio. Without physical media, we might as well be steered back to square one and having to make our own physical media, much like these earlier Doctor Who fans had done. Audio recorders, Super 8 cameras. Or maybe we're just going to have to wire old DVD recorders and VCRs and then convert them over. May not be the best quality, but that might be the only option we got. There's some conventions out there that will sell their own physical media cartridges, like recorded off their own televisions or whatever. So maybe that's the only option there. Regardless, companies need to realize, and I don't have a problem with streaming. I think it's a good alternative as compared to satellite TV, which I only keep around for local channels right now. But opportunity comes where I can cut the cord, I'm going to do so. It's like streaming is replacing satellite, much as satellite has replaced cable or superseded it. As far as I know, maybe cable TV is still out there. But physical media, we're always going to need that to keep, hopefully, even the least likely of entertainments from even being minimally lost. Feel like I'm missing out on a topic and want to recommend your own? Check me out on social media and the YouTube channel, and leave a comment below. See you all next time, and